And showtime, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup. We'll look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I am executive editor of the ChannelPro Network. I am also one of your co-hosts on this program. I am joined this week, as every week, by my co-host, Eric Simpson, a business transformation and improvement consultant for MSPs and other IT providers. Eric, how goes it?
It goes, Rich. It goes day by day. Just sitting here watching the numbers, and I'm not talking MSP KPIs.
Yeah, it's true. There are better numbers to be focused on, but there are other numbers that are capturing people's attention right now, huh?
Yeah, you bet. You bet. So again, just another week of one day at a time, my friend. One day at a time.
Indeed, indeed. We roll forward. So let's go ahead and roll into this week's news. Top story of the week that we're going to focus on for you this time is an update to Gravity Zone, the Bitdefender security platform. And they added a number of different features and capabilities, but the big addition to the platform is something that they're calling human risk analytics. And basically what it does, it adds to the product's existing risk assessment module the ability to track risky behavior on an individual level. So previously, the solution could take a look at your operating system settings, your application settings, firewall settings. It was looking at an organizational level for behaviors that might introduce more risk. And it was assigning a risk score for the organization, plus some specific guidance around that would help an IT department or an MSP go in and rectify some of the issues identified there. What they've added now is the ability to do that kind of an assessment on an individual user-by-user basis. So you can now kind of see, is user X over there recycling the same password over and over again? Is he or she downloading potentially unsafe software, unauthorized software from the internet? Are they visiting unsafe websites on a regular basis? And you can actually assign these individuals a risk score as well. Two things, there are two benefits to the MSP and the end user from this. And you know, from an MSP standpoint, you're getting a more complete and therefore more accurate view of the organization's risk posture. So you're not just looking at those organization level factors, you're also looking at the individual user level factors. And if you really want to understand how much risk this company is exposed to, you've got to be doing both of those things. And I think I actually mixed both of the things that I wanted to focus on into that one example right there. But you are getting a better sense for the organization's risk posture. In the course of doing that, you're learning which individuals on the payroll have a particular issue with this behavior or that behavior, and you can follow up with them, get them some additional security training, so that over time you're actually mitigating some of that risk that those users are introducing. What's significant about this, obviously these are capabilities that any organization really should have, any security system really should be incorporating, and this has been true since before the coronavirus. But now that we're in this coronavirus era and so many workers are still working from home and are going to continue working from home, this whole idea of post-perimeter security has become more relevant than ever. You can go ahead and look at a business's firewall settings, for example, but if none of the employees are behind the firewall anymore, that's not really going to tell you very much about how much danger the company is exposed to. You really, in the work from home period, you've really got to be focusing user by user at those risky behaviors to understand where the problems are. So it's actually, you know, this is something they've been working on since, before this year, but it's very timely in that regard, in that it is more relevant to the security dangers that businesses are facing right now.
Absolutely, Rich. And, the users, they really are the final frontier in this, defense posture, because as we all know, once we've done everything that we can to secure the perimeter and the devices and the applications and the services, the end users themselves become the highest opportunity for threats to enter the environment. And as we know, the highest payout type of activities from cyber criminals have to do with end users. We're talking about ransomware incidents where someone is clicking something in an email, a masqueraded email. We're talking about business email compromise where they're impersonating someone, trying to get funds transferred and things like that. The humans are the weakest link in the chain of security here. So it's it's really good to see that um, these vendors now are taking a more direct view of that instead of the MSP having to go to 4 or 5 different vendors to put together these solutions that include end user security awareness training and things like that. It's nice to see the folks at Bitdefender taking that defense in depth strategy and extending it beyond kind of the devices, services, applications, software, and things like that, and start looking at the behavior of the users. And you make a great point. I mean, now that we've got these remote workforces distributed all over the place, yeah, they're not behind that company firewall. What are they behind? They're behind some maybe home router, home wireless network that certainly may not have the same type of security oversight as the corporate network does.
You mentioned security awareness training. It's worth pointing out, Bitdefender right now at least doesn't have a security awareness training product of its own. They integrate with various third-party systems, as I understand it. But there are companies very much in the security awareness training space that have been doing similar kinds of things. So what's interesting about the Bitdefender product is that it's building that human risk data into the overall risk model for the company. But there are companies like Breach Secure Now, for example, that comes to mind immediately, that has been doing this kind of individual level risk scoring for a while. And then you can, in a very easy way, you can follow up on those risk scores to push out relevant training to users who, based on their poor performance, are very much in need of it.
Absolutely. There are a lot of players in that end user security awareness training category. Know Before comes to mind as well, and a few others. And I'm going to make a crazy prediction, Rich. Read my lips. I think that some of those folks probably make really good acquisition targets for some of these other vendors. And I do feel that, outside of acquiring that capability and integrating it into some of these other vendor solutions, I see the need and therefore the opportunity for the security vendors to just add that additional component of secure, end user security awareness training. So, my money's on a more comprehensive suite of services from the security vendors that will begin including things like end user behavior and security awareness training and testing and things like that. Call me crazy, but I'm liking my chances on that prediction.
Yeah, and in fact, not crazy at all. WebRoot and Barracuda come to mind immediately as companies that are already well down that road. They've both acquired security awareness training companies, 2-3 years ago, I think, in both those cases, and both companies very much see the opportunity to share information across the training platform and, say, the endpoint protection platform, and so that you can kind of see who's doing the wrong things on endpoint protection. Maybe we need to set them up with some more security awareness training.
Yep,
So,
yep. And I do come from the future, Rich. So all this is occurring now. I've seen it.
so we said earlier on in the program here, we just continue rolling on into the future. This is how we do these days, and that goes for everything up to and including the company retreat. I believe that is your tip of the week this week, Eric.
Absolutely, Rich. As we know, I mean, the first 30 days, 45 days of this current normal that we have going on, everybody was kind of trying to dip their toe in the water to figure out, okay, how can we continue business operations, during this unprecedented situation, and how soon before we get back to, business as usual. Well, I think we're all in agreement now that we'll never be back to business as usual. We are in the next normal right now, and this may be, phase one as we continue. I see the move toward continuing to deliver remote worker support and supporting these distributed remote workforces more and more. We know from reporting and statistics in the industry that a lot of business owners are looking at keeping more folks working remotely and things like that. So we as MSPs, we still have remote workers as well. Now, I know a lot of us, and even though we are essential workers, and can bring folks back to the office, sometimes it's simply not tenable because we can't really social distance properly and things like that. And we may have a skeleton crew in the office and other, technicians and sales and marketing folks at home still. But it's time to continue that tradition of communicating to our teams the strategy and the vision of the organization, where we're going, where we're heading. And before all this happened, Rich, we would do little retreats. We take the company somewhere outside of the office. Sometimes we do it in the office, but we call it a retreat. um, I want folks to start thinking about getting back into that strategic mindset and holding your retreat. Just do it virtually if you have to. We see that these virtual video conferencing platforms are you know are jumping over and falling over each other to try to add more and more features to make them more usable and friendly, and they're doing a great job of it, from a security standpoint, from a usability standpoint, and things like that, from a collaboration standpoint. And if we can start leveraging that for these, you know, quarterly or semi-annually retreats and things like that, we can certainly then appreciate the value of them. Maybe host more strategic meetings using these virtual devices. You know how hard it is to get everybody in a meeting physically. In the before four times. It's tough, but when we can do them virtually, I think it makes it a lot easier. And so again, the guidance here is, let's look at what's happened in the last 6 months this year and what we're doing in the next 6 months, and what our strategy is and what our planning is, and how we're adjusting things to deal with the situation, and how we're going to continue to grow the organization. And let's share that messaging with our team. Let's get their feedback. Let's continue innovating and growing our businesses by keeping our internal teams all on the same page and rowing in the same direction according to our game plan.
And you mentioned it's important. It's always important to keep the entire organization aligned and aware of strategy and the direction of the company. You could say it's even more important now that you make certain to keep everybody aware of and aligned on security and direction, or strategy and direction, excuse me, because people are all isolated right now. They're working from home. They're not picking that up just from the atmosphere around the office the way maybe they were before. And so it's that much more essential that you carve out some time to get people together, even if it's just in Zoom or Teams, to come together and make sure everybody is on the same page in terms of where the entire organization is going.
I'm in violent agreement, Rich. I mean, it's vitally important, especially when we are segregated and not having, the opportunity to have those little hallway conversations and pick up things and having quick impromptu, hey, let's quick huddle, guys. So it's really, really important to communicate even more. I mean, it's the same strategy that we've been talking about in growing and maintaining existing client relationships, more outreach, more communication during these challenging times. I mean, and it's even more vitally important to do so with our internal teams and making sure that, again, not only are we expressing, new strategy things, but getting feedback from how things are going and what other challenges, may not be being surfaced in delivering service the way we're doing it now. So, I mean, it's just one of those, it makes complete logical sense when you think about it, right? So, yeah, we should probably be doing that. So let's do it.
All right, folks, so get to it. Now that leaves us with time for just one more story this week, and it comes to us from India via the Indian Express. Eric, I don't know if we're dealing with an example of conspicuous consumption here, or just proof positive that a fool and his money will soon be parted. But we learned this week that a 49-year-old gentleman from India has purchased for himself a roughly $4,000 solid gold face mask. Now, we could pause there and just talk about the wisdom of spending $4,000 on a solid gold face mask, but I'll quote you from this story from the Indian Express. Quote, "It is a thin mask and has tiny pores that are helping me to breathe," says the owner. So this is a $4,000 solid gold face mask with holes in it. It doesn't even work. There's just nothing right about this purchasing decision, Eric.
Yeah, it's it reminds me of, a plot line from a bad 007 movie or something. The man with the golden face mask. I
Yeah.
can just imagine him sitting with his cat on his lap, making his plans for world domination with his golden porous face mask.
But Bond villains are at least usually reasonably intelligent people. I don't know. I don't know what this fella's thinking there exactly. But hey, it's attractive. If nothing else, it looks nice. Folks, that is all the time we have this week on the Channel Pro 5-Minute Roundup. Thank you so much for joining us. If you like the show, you want to maybe take a look at some older episodes you missed, or keep up with the new ones as they become available, the thing you want to do is go to the Channel Pro Network channel on YouTube and subscribe. Make sure you click that little bell icon if you want to get notified when the new episodes go up. To read more about the latest edition of Gravity Zone from Bitdefender, to get all sorts of other industry news and business growth advice for your company, please go to channelpronetwork.com. Every day we've got great new content going up for you there all the time. To learn more about Eric and the work that he does with his clients, you should go to ericksimpson.com. That is ERICK Simpson.com. Thanks again once more for joining us. We will join you again next week with another episode of the program. Until then, please enjoy the rest of your week. Eric and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.